I can do this. I don't know how you people do this. I don't know how you YouTubers lift up y'all lift up piles huger than this one, and I can't even. Bigger than this one? Huger. Is huger a word? I don't think it's a word. Bigger than this one. And I don't know how you do it because I can't keep this all. They keep slipping and sliding. Caroline's upended present. Oh. I was not understanding that sentence. Soon collides with an explosive history. Binding her. God, I was doing so well. I was doing so well. Let's try this for like the 5th time. Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video. My name is Sarah and today I'm going to be doing my first book haul. I recently realized that I had acquired quite a few books. I think there's like 8 of them. All within kind of rapid succession of one another, so I figured I'd do a little book haul and kind of talk about the ones that I picked up and how I'm just really excited for all of them, so I want to talk about them. I'm just gonna kind of talk about what the book is supposed to be about, what I know about it, kind of maybe why I picked it up or where I got it from, and yeah. So we're gonna get started. So the first 2 books I picked up kind of were a little bit of a Amazon binge, well, binge if you call buying 2 books a binge, but I put myself on like a soft book buy and ban, where I would only acquire books through either Book of the Month or OwlCrate, which are the 2 book subscription boxes that I am subscribed to, and then I quickly broke it by buying 2 books on Amazon, but I have since reinstated it after this haul because there are 2 other books that I picked up, but those I couldn't pass up because they were a really good deal, but I'll get to those later. So the first book that I picked up on Amazon was Graceling by Kristen Cashore. The reason why I picked this up is because I had like watched several videos within just like a week of each other, and they had all mentioned the Graceling series either through like recommendations, they were currently reading them, just for random reasons, and it's just really intrigued me, and I've been really interested in picking it up, and because I'd heard about it several times from several different people all within like a week of each other, I was just like, okay, this is a sign, I need to pick this book up. So this is the first in a series that, from what I understand, the books are actually kind of stand alone from each other, or they can, but they are like kind of just loosely interconnected. So this is the first one. It's about our main character, Katza. She has what's called a grace, and a grace is like a not necessarily like a power, but kind of like a power. It's like you've got a really strong affinity for something, or you're just really good at doing something, and she's really good at killing people, and so when she discovers this grace of hers, she becomes kind of the king's assassin. So she travels around and assassinates people for the king, but she stumbles across this other character who he has a grace for combat skills, and he enlists her help to search for what happened to his missing grandfather. And so when Katza helps him and they go on this journey to figure out what happened to his grandpa, they start uncovering things, I guess, about the kingdom and graces in general, and it just sounds really interesting. And I also just really love this artwork. Like, this cover is so pretty. This is, I think, these books, this was first published in like, let's see, 2008. Originally published, yeah, so it's originally published in 2008, and so it's went through several cover exchanges, and I think this one or the Fairy Loot ones, which I just barely missed being able to get my hands on the Fairy Loot hardcovers of the whole series, they're probably some of my favorites, but this one I do really like this rendition of the cover. I think the art style is really pretty, so I'm glad that I picked this one up, because if I continue the series, I'll definitely be continuing to try to get them in this style. So the next book that I picked up on Amazon is Awakens by Elise Kova. Now I haven't heard necessarily a lot about this particular book, but I've heard a lot about this author, and so I wanted to kind of just check her out because I definitely during like the fantasy romance February read along I'd heard a lot about her, but just in general I've heard quite a bit about her, and I think the reason why I picked this one up is because it's kind of got to do with like magic and libraries, and I just really like that idea in fantasy novels. We follow our main character Vala, and she's a library apprentice, and she's always been told to stay away from the sorcerer's tower because I guess like magic is bad in this world. And one day she ends up discovering that she has this rare elemental magic when she saves the crown prince, and so she has to decide, is she going to just try to get rid of her magic and like suppress it and stay as a library's apprentice, or is she going to embrace it and help fight for the kingdom. And it just sounds kind of just really interesting. It sounds more of a fantasy oriented story than necessarily the romance side of it, which was kind of what I was hoping for when I went looking through her books. I just really like this cover, again, this art style, and I noticed at the beginning of each chapter it like has the art style there too, which I think is just super pretty. So I'm really excited about this. It is the first in a series. I'm not sure how many books are in this series. Does it say? Yeah, it looks like there's 5 books in this series. So the next book that I picked up was actually the OwlCrate book of the month from last month's box, and that is the Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I've heard so much about this book, and when I first saw like the little hint for what was in this month's box, I had no idea what the book was, and then when I opened the box I was like, duh, I should have known that like this would be the book. So it sounds really fascinating, and I've heard nothing but great things about this book and this author in general and her writing style. I think this is her debut. So this is a YA fantasy about our main character who she lives in a society where they do like this blood test thing. It's a blood test to see if your blood runs red or gold. And if it runs gold, that means, I think it means you're like a demon. And so normally those people get killed off, but she ends up getting saved by this lady who comes and tells her that she can either stay in her village and get killed off, or she can come with her and go to this kind of like training ground and join a bunch of other girls whose blood also runs gold, and kind of hone their abilities and fight for the emperor. And I think that just sounds really fascinating, and I love the idea of like just a band of women fighters. I think there's a strong sense of found family, which is one of my favorite tropes in just books in general. So I'm really excited for this one, and the cover is also just really pretty. It looks a lot similar to the normal cover, but the OwlCrate edition added the detailing in the background here, I think. I think that's the biggest difference from the main cover. But yeah, I'm really excited for this one. Okay, so the next 2 books also broke my book buying ban, but I have good reason. So I was out of town, and I went to Books A Million, which is a bookshop that I don't have in my city, but it was in this other city that I was in, and so I stopped in, and I did not realize that they have like a pretty big discount book area that has really decent selection. Actually, I was really surprised, and I ended up picking up Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. Laini Taylor. I think it's Laini Taylor. I picked up, so this is paperback and this is hardcover, and I got them both for $10 and some change together. Like, you can't find, I don't even think this paperback would have been $15. So, and then the hardcover is like, I don't know, probably it's $20. So like, I had to pick them up. I haven't read anything by Laini Taylor, but I have been meaning to because I've heard nothing but great things about her writing. I've heard it's really poetic and whimsical, which is a writing style that I really, really love. And I initially intended to pick up Daughter of Smoke and Bone before this one, but I couldn't pass up getting both of these for under $11. So what I know about this is a duology. I don't know if I said that. This is a duology. And Strange the Dreamer is the first one, and it's about Laszlo Strange, and he's also a librarian, or a library's apprentice. He's a junior librarian. And he dreams of this far-off land called the Weep, which I guess is supposed to be kind of like this magical, kind of, think of like Atlantis, where it's like this place that everybody like hears about, and it's supposed to be just kind of like this grand land that used to exist, but it's called the Weep, and he wants to find it. He wants to find out what happened to it, why it disappeared. He joins a band of legendary warriors, and he ends up traveling with them to find the Weep. And I think there's something about like this goddess that keeps visiting him in his dreams, and so it's just kind of a story about him finding the Weep, and I don't know what much else about it. This is one that was like definitely a spur of the moment pick, and one that I just kind of picked up. Like, it was very much a pick up on the whim. So the next 3 books I all got from Book of the Month. I picked my book of the month last month, and then I kind of just couldn't stop myself and added on 2 add-ons. So the book that I picked up for March's Book of the Month was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. And I'm actually going to read the synopsis that's on the inside cover here, because I feel like there's a lot going on in the synopsis, because we follow 2 different timelines. So it says, hidden in the depths of 18th century London, a secret apothecary shop caters to an unusual kind of clientele. Women across the city whisper of a mysterious figure named Nella, who sells well-disguised poisons to use against the oppressive men in their lives. Nella's dark world is no place for her newest patron, a precocious 12-year-old girl named Eliza Fanning, but their unexpected bond sparks a strain of consequences that echoes through the centuries. 200 years later, aspiring historian Caroline Parswell discovers an aged apothecary vial in the River Thames. As she's newly grappling with the searing betrayal of her husband's infidelity, a curious research project is exactly the distraction Caroline needs. But when she discovers a link between the vial and London's long-unsolved apothecary murders, Caroline's upended present soon collides with an explosive history, binding her fate to Nella's and Eliza's in a stunning twist that transcends the barrier of time. So, it sounds nothing like what is that book? Like, it's one of those books that I have seen nobody else read and talk about, but I absolutely loved it, and it was a book of the month from last year. Things in Jars. So this sounds nothing like Things in Jars, but the London urban magical realism mystery side of it reminds me of Things in Jars, and the feminist approach to things, with how even like the main character from Things in Jars, there's definitely feminist undertones to a woman in Victorian London solving crimes. This kind of just, it gives me that similar vibe, so I'm really, really excited to see where this one goes. I haven't really heard anybody else talking about it, but I'm really looking forward to it. So then I also picked up 2 others. Like I said, they were add-ons, and these were actually, I just looked and they happened to be Book of the Month selections right around this time last year. I think one's March and one's April of 2019, which I wasn't... No, not last year, 2 years ago. It's 2021, not 2020, Sarah. You can do math. 2021 minus 2019 is 2 years ago. One of them is Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. Look at this cover too, this art. Half of this is just me showing off book covers that I think are gorgeous. But really, like, these covers though, these covers. They're so pretty. Descendant of the Crane is one that I have heard a little bit about, and I've been kind of excited about the idea of it. So it's about our main character. She is a princess, and she doesn't want to be a princess. She wants a very quiet lifestyle. But that all gets very upended when A, she is a princess, so that's her reality, but B, her father dies and she ends up having to abruptly take over the crown, but she thinks that it was a murder, and so she's trying to grapple with abruptly taking over the crown's responsibilities and duties, while also looking into the possible murder of her father, and also dealing with a lot of political unrest of I guess, like, the people in her council and everything. There is a kind of fantastical element to it. In order to kind of look into her father's murder, she enlists the help of a soothsayer, but it's a treasonous act. It's punishable by death because magic was outlawed like years and years and years ago. So that's where kind of the magical element comes into this. I think, from my understanding, there are themes of feminism in this book as well. I feel like there would be. It sounds like it. I'm just really excited about this, and I've heard good things about it from people who have read it. And then the other add-on that I have is actually a book that I haven't heard about at all, but I was like, well, if I'm gonna have one add-on, might as well do two, you know? Because I couldn't help myself and I couldn't restrain myself at all. But anyway, so I haven't heard about it, but I was looking through just some of the lists, and I stumbled across this one and it sounded really interesting, and that is Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schultz. I think it's Schultz. And the tagline is really interesting. It says, 1 big lie, 2 forbidden romances, 3 days to catch a killer. So basically, there's a thief she steals a parcel from this other dude, and then the dude tries to get it back, and while doing so, the two of them kind of get wrapped up in this conspiracy that ends up with the 4 queens of the realm all dead. And in this conspiracy, they decide they want to solve the murder. And that's my general understanding of this book, and I love the idea of a 4 queendom, like a realm that's ruled by 4 different queens. It sounds like, and we're probably gonna get like a lot of backstory on each of the queens and information, at least I'm hoping so, and kind of the different relationships between the 4 queens and the inner workings of that. And it's another murder mystery set in a fantasy setting, which I just really love. I love that idea, so I'm very excited for this one. And like I said, I haven't heard anything about it, so if anybody has heard anything about this book, I'd love to just hear your thoughts on them. These are the 8 books that I picked up within the last month or so, despite me trying to refrain from picking up so many books each month, which, like, in reality, I guess like 8 isn't like a ton compared to some of the hauls that I've seen. No shame, by the way, because I live for buying books. It brings me great joy, but it is starting to get a little out of hand, my TBR pile, because I can only read them so fast. But if you've read any of those books, I'd love to hear about your thoughts. If you're wanting to read any of these, I'd love to hear it as well. Otherwise, I really appreciate you guys watching this video. I hope you consider sticking around and subscribing. But for now, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!